Hi again. Welcome back to our Shine Collective. My name is Liz, and we are here to support your conscious evolution with our Emotional Wellbeing series. We want to start by asking you this simple question: who are you? Answering this question may seem simple, yet usually what follows are a lot of self-descriptions. I am Sarah, I'm 29 years old, I'm an operations manager, I have an apartment downtown, and I like traveling and watching sports. If you pay close attention, we often give information about what we have, our home or children, what we do, job or hobbies, and or what we own, a house or a business. Yet none of these things truly define the essence of our being. So this time, let's up the ante and ask, who are you beyond your possessions, education, title, appearance, or life situation? Who are you beyond what you have, do, or own? What would you say now? It's quite challenging, isn't it? How do we define ourselves without labels or concepts? Where is our sense of identity, the idea we hold about ourselves without the limits of our mental constructs? Welcome to the fascinating world of the egoic mind. The ego is a fascinating and natural feature that allows us as conscious agents to experience and interact with physical reality, separated from all other unified fields of consciousness, be it other beings, social constructs, or physical objects. Recall how the mind's job is to spin narratives to help us make sense of ourselves and the world? That is the function of the ego, to craft a personal narrative or invented identity. A sense of I, consisting of the belief that I am what I have, do, own, think, and feel. The content of our ego or egoic mind is stored in our subconscious mind, and it's intrinsically personal. For some, their identity is determined by their social status, such as I am a doctor, politician, a miner, or a role. I am a wife, a grandmother, a business owner, a victim. For others, their sense of self is filled with material possessions, designer clothes, a big house, an expensive car, a bazillion followers, the latest gadgets, you get it. What determines our identity, you may ask? Well, that depends on many factors. The ego formation begins in early childhood, around 2 or 3 years old, as soon as we begin to be exposed to norms, values, and rules of our environment. In this stage, what is usually called the terrible twos, our caregivers will begin setting boundaries for our behavior, which up until now consists in crying our way to get their attention so we can be fed, clean, put to sleep, or cuddled. Now we're learning to go potty, put our toys away, or use words and gestures to communicate that we are hungry, while also use defiance to grasp at behavioral boundaries. We also begin absorbing everything around us, effortlessly, continuously, and indiscriminately. We call this culture, and culture provides a standard. Every little thing we soak in builds connections in our brain at a conscious and subconscious level. We may develop feelings of shame for being scolded for playing with our toys, or become emotionally volatile after encountering someone's anger. We can also be programmed with beliefs that big boys don't cry, imaginary friends don't exist, or sharing is caring. Educational institutions, religion, the media, and later on the workplace also play a massive role in influencing our identity, usually implying a sense of belonging through hierarchy, achievements, following the latest trends or experts' opinions, appearance, and material possessions. We've often noticed this cause and effect relation between things that happen in life in our coaching program. Things such as hearing from your therapist that you are depressed or have a mood disorder can lead you to attach your identity to this label if it is seen as trustworthy. You then become the disorder, and your struggles with it an essential part of who you believe you are, which is heartbreaking because you also benefit from being aware that in some instances you need to be given a certain diagnostic code for your therapy to be covered by your health insurance or medical care system. This mindset is also reflected in things like, because I did this, then this happened, which says this about me. No matter which self-descriptions we have used to develop our ego, They are all subjective influences that assist us in limiting our self-expression. The egoic mind actually enjoys limitation because limitation helps the mind make sense of our world and how we fit in it. Now that you have a better idea of what the egoic mind is and how it is formed, let's focus on its expression. How do we know when we are operating under a dysfunctional ego? The easiest way to do this is to pay attention to what we focus on. The ego's job is to have us experience individuality. However, to preserve a psychical and hierarchical chase to fulfill the desires in the material world and glorification of another, social conditioning and expectations have been programming our ego structure to never be fully satisfied. In other words, a dysfunctional ego has a strong focus on the outside world. Somebody whose focus on the outside world is usually concerned with questions like this. Another expression of the dysfunctional ego is through fear. Fear is a feeling that communicates that something valuable, like our current identity, may be under threat. The more we identify with our appearance, possessions, or roles, the more value we attach to those things. And the problem with this approach is that the things we identify with are inevitably temporary, as all things change. Therefore, realizing that they will be lost or fade away triggers this safety mechanism. This in turn will be manifested as the need for control, which is indeed a paradox if you think about how fear uses control over you to dominate fear itself. When our identity is defined by outside labels, our ability to hone them strengthens our identity. The more money means more I, more attractive means a better I. A better performance means a more successful I. This constant need for outside validation turns our life into an endless competition to outperform others so that we can feel seen and valued. This competition doesn't happen in all domains, but solely in the ones from which we draw our identity. Suppose that a good friend of yours has a breakthrough with a song she wrote. If music is not part of your ego, her achievement will bring you pride and mudita, or vicarious joy. However, suppose you also happen to be a musician struggling to get recognition. In that case, the chances you will envy her success depend on how much your ego feels threatened, because a dysfunctional ego indirectly correlates its value to the success of another. The same is true for labels that place the self in a negative light. When you consider yourself as not being good enough, or interesting enough, or beautiful enough, or wealthy enough, others will play an essential role in your self-evaluation. Maybe you won't necessarily compete with them, but you might perceive their higher performance as a confirmation of your identity as an unsuccessful person. That is because a dysfunctional ego can only exist by contrast, of being better or more unique compared to others. Any exchange is conditional because to give anything away means losing a piece of ourselves, of our identity. Therefore, whenever we identify with something, a dysfunctional egoic mind will also see others as a potential threat to its existence. This is evident when we perceive any form of criticism of our work as an offense to our sense of self. So if you're a writer and you self-identify with the book you have written, you are more likely to perceive a bad review of that book as an attack on yourself. The ego knows no lack or inequality other than what it has been taught or which information we are filling our subconscious container with. However, it is only when we choose to judge, to shame, to resist, to hold resentment towards ourselves, someone else, or even an entire group of people that we get to reinforce the ego's function of separation through the perspective of value judgment rather than discernment, which is the nature of creation, as we have mentioned in a previous video. This is also the reason why the ego is not performing as it was designed. It has been narrowly focused to only see the self and not the other. The ego learned to seek protection and restriction through outside influence of self-serving intentions, often defaulting to seeing life as a series of adversities. So in the next video, we will show you how to use mindfulness to bring your ego back into balance, so that you too can become fulfilled organically and effortlessly from within. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.